at 2020 at 2:30 p.m. I'd like to start off with a roll call. Councillor Ken Cudmore, are you present?
Councillor Cudmore present.
Councillor Doug Hawkins, are you present?
Councillor Hawkins present.
Councillor Virginia Black, are you present?
Councillor Virginia Black present.
Councillor Paul Moles, Deputy Mayor, are you present?
Councillor Moles present.
Councillor Ian Lobsey, OAM, are you present?
Councillor Lobsey is present.
Councillor Rob Webster, are you present?
Councillor Webster present.
Staff members, General Manager Joanne Sangster, are you present?
Present.
Director of Environmental Services, Ms Donna Osling, are you present?
Present.
Acting Director of Engineering Services, Rodney Badaham, are you present?
Present.
Brooke Stevenson, Minute Taker, are you present? And
Brooke
Executive Assistant.
Executive Officer present.
Kian Middleton, not sure of your title, are you present?
Kian Middleton, Executive Manager, Corporate Services, present.
Thank you very much. Everybody is present and accounted for. I'll now read out the new policy for your audio recordings of meetings. Consistent with Section 747A of the Local Government Act 1993 and the Public Health COVID-19 Gatherings Order 2020, this meeting of Liverpool Plains Shire Council is being held remotely using audio and visual links. As with ordinary meetings conducted in person, Council's Code of Meeting Practice applies to today's proceedings. A webcast of the meeting will be published to Council's website at lpsc.newsouthwales.gov.au so that it is available for viewing members of the public. While Section 747A of the Act and the Public Health Order remains in force, Council will not be facilitating a public forum. During this period, members of the public can still provide feedback on matters being considered by Council by providing submissions and comment via email. For further information about Council meetings, please visit Council's website at lpsc.newsouthwales.gov.au. Thank you. If we can all now bow our heads for acknowledgement of country and prayer. And today we gather on the land of the Kamilaroi Nation. We therefore need to acknowledge the traditional owners and custodians of this land. We also pay our respects to Aboriginal elders, both past and present, and further extend that respect to other adults who have joined us today. Council prayer. Lord, we ask you watch over this council, guide us in our deliberations and decisions for the betterment of all the people of our Shire and Australia. Amen. Thank you.
Amen.
Okay, apologies and applications for leave. We have none, so we'll move on. Item 3, confirmation of the minutes of the council meeting. The minutes of the council, the recommendation is in two parts. One is the minutes of the council meeting held on the 25th of March 2020 be received, and the recommendation there is be adopted. 2, that the meeting with Mr. Maher be noted as an administrative error and be removed. Somebody happy to move item 1 and 2?
Yes, I'm happy
Councillor Moles
to move.
happy to move.
Okay, Councillor Ian Lobsey, you move those minutes?
Yes, I'm happy.
Thank you. Councillor Paul Moles, you seconded those minutes?
Happy to do that, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Ian Lobsey, do you wish to speak to the minutes?
No, don't wish to speak to it.
Councillor Moles, do you wish to speak to it?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Cudmore, do you wish to speak to it?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Hawkins, do you wish to speak to it?
No, Mr. Mayor. I wasn't present at the March meeting.
Thank you. Councillor Black, do you wish to speak to it?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I too was not present at the meeting, but have read the minutes and I have got no comments. Thank you.
Councillor Webster, do you wish to speak to it?
No, thanks.
Thank you all. Next item on the agenda is the minutes, let's change pages, disclosures of interest. Do any councillors have any interest they wish to disclose, or any management team? Councillor Cudmore, do you have any disclosures of interest?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Hawkins, any disclosures of interest?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Black, any disclosures of interest?
No, nothing to disclose, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Moles, any disclosures of interest?
Councillor Moles, nil to declare.
Councillor Lobbs, any disclosures of interest?
Nothing to declare.
Councillor Webster, any disclosures of interest?
No.
Joanne Sangster, any disclosures of interest?
No disclosures of interest, Mayor.
Rodney Batterham, any disclosures of interest?
No interest, Mr Mayor.
Don Rosley, any disclosures of interest?
No disclosures of interest, Mr Mayor.
Kean Middleton, any disclosures of interest?
No disclosures of interest.
Thank you very much, all. The next item on the agenda is the mayoral minute. And the first one is the mayoral minute activities we received and noted. I'm happy to move that. Do I have a seconder?
Seconded, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Black. I don't wish to have any speak to it. We did that this morning. Is there any questions or comments? Councillor Miles.
No comments, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Hawkins.
No comments, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Webster.
No thanks.
Councillor Lobbsy.
No comments, thanks.
Councillor Cudmore.
No comments, thank you.
So now put the recommendation. All those in favour?
Aye. Aye.
We're going to have to say our names. So Councillor Cudmore, how do you
Aye.
vote?
Councillor Cudmore, aye.
Councillor Hawkins, how do you vote?
Councillor Hawkins, yes.
Councillor Black, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Miles, how do you?
Councillor Moles, aye.
Councillor Lobbsy, how do you vote?
In favour.
Councillor Webster, how do you vote?
In favour.
I declare that carried unanimously. Item 5.2, the mayoral minute on COVID-19 financial support. This is a recommendation in several parts. The first part is one, calls on the federal government and New South Wales government to urgently deliver comprehensive and multifaceted financial support and stimulus packages to local government to enable them to continue to operate effectively and provide essential services during the COVID-19 pandemic. Item 2, calls for the packages to include the following measures. A, increasing financial assistance grants payments to help councils maintain essential functions and services, acknowledging the increased costs and the mounting revenue losses arising from COVID-19 and drought and bushfire where affected, as well as giving councils capacity to provide hardship assistance to businesses and residents. B, immediate financial assistance to support council employees, especially in early education and care. C, providing stimulus funding to councils for projects that will help sustain councils' operations and boost local economies. This could be achieved through increasing or bringing forward funding under existing funding programs or introducing new programs. D, increased access to TAFE, VET and other apprenticeship, and I've lost the rest of it, other apprenticeship opportunities that council staff can undertake to address skill shortages, especially for staff in non-essential services who are unable to be redeployed. 3, commends the New South Wales and federal government on their stewardship during the crisis and commits to working in partnership to protect community health and to sustain local economies through this crisis. 4, write to the local federal member, the Honourable Barnaby Joyce MP, local state members, the Honourable Kevin Anderson MP and Mr Michael Johnson MP, Prime Minister, the Honourable Scott Morrison MP, New South Wales Premier, the Honourable Gladys Berejiklian MP, Federal Treasurer, the Honourable Joss Frydenberg MP, New South Wales Treasurer, the Honourable Dominic Perrott MP, New South Wales Local Government Minister, the Honourable Shelley Hancock MP, Federal Ministers for Local Government and the Honourable Mark Colton, Federal Opposition Leader, the Honourable Anthony Albanese, New South Wales Opposition Leader, Jodie Mackay MP, Federal Shadow Minister for Local Government, Jason Clare, MP, and the New South Wales Shadow Minister for Local Government, Greg Warren MP, to confirm their support for the increasing financial assistance and stimulus funding for local government to help councils maintain essential services and employment during the COVID-19 pandemic. 5, endorses local government New South Wales sector-wide campaign to obtain financial assistance, employment support and stimulus funding for local government sector. 6, advise local government New South Wales President Linda Scott of the passage of this mayoral minute. I will now move that mayoral minute. Could I please have a seconder?
Councillor Moles, happy to second it.
Thank you, councillor Miles. I don't believe I need to speak to it any more than I have. Do you wish to speak to it, councillor Miles?
Just briefly, thank you, Mr Mayor. Councillor Miles, I'd just like to say that it's a very comprehensive mayoral minute, and I congratulate the Mayor on that. And it's identifying the needs of local government, and hopefully we can get a positive response from it. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, councillor Miles. Councillor Virginia Black, would you like to speak to it?
Just to concur with councillor Mould that it's a very well written letter to all the government bodies and to help support our shire and the people within our shire during this time. Thank you.
That's right. Councillor Hawkins, would you wish to speak to it?
No, Mr Mayor, except to say that I'm in favour of the document.
Councillor Cudmore, would you like to speak to it?
No, thanks, Mr Mayor. No, well done. Thank you.
Councillor Webster, would you like to speak to it?
No, thanks, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Lozzi, would you like to speak to it?
No, thanks. I think it's a very good document. So.
If not, I now put the motion. How do you vote, councillor Cudmore?
In favour?
Councillor Hawkins?
In favour?
Councillor Black?
In favour?
Councillor Miles?
In favour?
Councillor Lobsey?
In favour?
Councillor Webster?
In favour?
I now declare it carried unanimously. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is, click over my pages. You can tell I'm not used to paperwork. Okay. Item 6 is Edward correspondence and petitions. There is a recommendation to receive and note the correspondence. Would I have somebody move that recommendation, please?
Councillor Black move.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder?
Councillor Hawkins?
Thank you, councillor Black. Thank you, councillor August. Do you wish to speak to it, councillor Black?
Just to state that the letter from Senator Deborah O'Neill, I sincerely hope that, that any discussions that are had with the Senator will produce some positive input for us in the Liverpool Plain Shire.
Thank you, councillor Black. Who was our seconder? Councillor Miles, was it?
Councillor Hawkins, nothing to add. Nothing to add to that, Mr Mayor.
Okay. So back to the list over here. Councillor Cudmore, you wish to speak to it?
No, thank you. No, I'm just, I confer with councillor Black that I'm just not quite sure what Deborah O'Neill was offering, but hopefully it something comes out of it. Thank you.
Councillor Miles, to speak to it? We lost him, haven't we? Councillor Miles.
Sorry, I lost you, Mr Mayor. I'm in favour of the document, supportive.
Thank you. Councillor Lobsey.
In favour?
Councillor Webster.
Yes, in favour.
If I have missed a minute, I now put the motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
Councillor Cudmore in favour?
Councillor Hawkins in favour?
Yep.
Councillor Webster in favour.
Councillor Black in favour.
And Councillor Miles in favour.
Thank you, councillors. I declare that carried unanimously. Okay. The next item on the report is 7.1, the Executive Area Works Report. There's a recommendation to receive and note the Executive Area Works Report. Could I have somebody please move the recommendation?
Councillor Black move.
Thank you, Councillor Black.
Councillor Lobsey?
Thank you, Councillor Lobsey, for a seconder. Do you wish to speak to it, Councillor Black?
Just to say that understanding the difficulties that our DM has faced during this last 4 weeks and the work that she has put in, as well as having to move quite a number of staff around into different positions within the organisation. I take my hat off to her and thank her.
Thank you.
Councillor.
Thank you very much, Councillor Black. Who seconded? Councillor Lobsey, do you wish to speak to it?
No, nothing further, thanks.
Councillor Miles, do you wish to speak to it?
Not really, Mr Mayor, just to note the comments I made this morning. I will be putting them in a written form and sending those in because they were quite extensive, but very well explained. And I thank the GM and the staff for answering my questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Miles. Councillor Webster, do you wish to speak to it?
No, thanks.
Councillor Hawkins?
No, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Cudmore?
No, thank you.
I covered everybody off. Councillor Black, did I ask you? Yes, I
I'm
did.
sorry.
It's all good. I now put the motion. All those in favour?
Yep.
Start with Councillor Cudmore.
Councillor Cudmore, you in favour?
Councillor Hawkins?
Councillor Hawkins in favour.
Councillor Black?
In favour.
Councillor Miles?
Councillor Miles in favour.
Councillor Lobsey?
In favour.
Councillor Webster?
In favour.
Now put that carried unanimously. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is 7.2, investments for March 2020. There is a recommendation to receive and note the investments for March 2020. Do I have a mover of that one, please?
Councillor Miles, happy to move.
Thank you, Councillor Miles. Do I have a seconder?
Councillor Hawkins.
Thank you, Councillor Hawkins. Do you wish to speak to it, Councillor Miles?
Yes, please, Mr Mayor. Councillor Miles, I'd just like to say it may be a brief document, and following some comments I've had on the arts and cultural plan, I believe it's a great starting point, and I believe other documents will fall into place which will answer a lot of our other questions. So I really congratulate the report and happy to move it.
Councillor Miles?
Yes.
It's the investments report, not the arts and cultural plan.
Oh, sorry. What did I flick over? No.
No,
We're at
probably.
7.1. 7.2 investments we're at.
My apologies.
7.2.
No comment on the investment report.
Okay, so
Sorry, I flicked over one page.
thank you. So Councillor Miles, you moved the report. You're still happy to remove it?
Yes, Mr Mayor.
Thank you.
My apologies, councillors.
If there's no further questions, I'll now put the motion. Councillor Ken Cudmore, how do you vote?
In favour?
Councillor Hawkins, how do you vote?
In favour.
Councillor Black, how do you vote?
In favour.
Councillor Miles moved it, so that's fine. Councillor Ian Lobsey, how do you vote?
In favour.
Councillor Webster, how do you vote?
In favour.
Carried unanimously, thank you. Item 7.3, the Combined Delivery Program 2017-2021 and Operational Plan 2019-2020 Progress Report. There is a recommendation that in relation to the third quarter operational plan report, Council receive and note the Combined Delivery Program 2017-21 and 2020-21 Operational Plan Quarter 3 Progress Report contained in Appendix 1. Is somebody happy to move that, please?
So moved. Councillor Hawkins.
Thank you, Councillor Hawkins. Do I have a seconder?
Councillor Black.
Councillor Cudmore?
Thank you, Councillor Black. Do you wish to speak to it, Councillor Hawkins?
No, Mr Mayor.
Do you wish to speak to it, Councillor Black?
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. Just to congratulate on the number of actions that have already been undertaken. And after discussions this morning, I think we're well on track.
Thank you, Councillor Black. Do any other councillors have a question? I'll start with Councillor Cudmore.
No, thank you.
Councillor Hawkins.
Nothing to add, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Lobsey.
No, nothing.
Councillor Webster.
No, thanks.
I now put the motion. All those in favour, starting with Councillor Cudmore.
In favour?
Councillor Hawkins.
In favour.
Councillor Black.
In favour.
Councillor Miles.
In favour.
Councillor Lobsey.
In favour.
Councillor Webster.
In favour.
Mayor is also in favour. Declare it to carry unanimously. So the next item on the agenda is 7.4, the adoption of the Arts and Cultural Plan. And it is a two-part recommendation. It's adopt the Arts and Cultural Plan and supporting action plan as presented and gives notice of its decision in the local newspaper. Item 2, priority components of the Arts and Cultural Plan be subject to detailed financial costing to be submitted to the May 2020 Ordinary Council meeting for further information, the 2021 budget process. So just before I ask someone to move this, I'll briefly speak to it. There's been a body of work going on for quite a long time to get this to where it's at. There's a suite of documents that belong to this that was paid for by a consultant. And this overarching document that we're about to put up for council to approve is the high-level document, the strategic document that allows our staff to forward plan for the upcoming budget. So I'd like to thank the staff for the amount of work and effort that's gone into this. And I'd be very pleased to see this passed unanimously by council. So I now ask for somebody to move.
Councillor Moles.
Thank you, Councillor Miles. Do I have a second?
Councillor Lobsey.
Thank you, Councillor Lobsey. Do you wish to speak to it, Councillor Miles?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think I spoke on it about 2 items back. However, just following on, I was questioning the recommendation in part 1 refers to giving notice of the decision in the local newspaper. I'm wondering, following the COVID-19 recommendation earlier in the papers, that we put it on the website, that we weren't required to do paper notifications, whether that might be more appropriate. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Miles. I guess to answer your question, I believe that the Crindle Advocate may not actually be publishing a newspaper at the moment. We're trying to clarify that, and once we have the staff, will make the appropriate adjustments as required. Councillor Lobsey, do you wish to speak to it?
Nothing further to add. No.
Councillor Cudmore.
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Hawkins.
Nothing to add, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Black.
Only that this is a very comprehensive report. Thank you.
Councillor Webster.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, no, look, I made my thoughts clear this morning. I believe that the project brief was for the consultant to supply the 3 plans, and 2 of them haven't actually been tabled yet, including the business plan and the master plan. And I'm disappointed that they're actually not included with this brief.
Thank you, Councillor Webster. I'll now put the motion. All those in favour, starting with Councillor Cudmore.
In favour.
Councillor Hawkins.
In favour.
Councillor Black.
In favour.
Councillor Miles.
In favour.
Councillor Lobsey.
In favour.
Councillor Webster.
Against.
I'll now record the vote. The Mayor is in favour. The vote has gone 6 votes to 1, and therefore is passed. Thank you very much. Okay, the next item on the agenda is 7.5, construction of a 6 metre by 6 metre shed, 46 Nowlan Avenue, Quirindi, New South Wales. There is a recommendation there in one part that says grant consent subject to conditions as detailed in Schedule 1, conditions of development consent DA 9/2020, development application 9/2020 be determined pursuant to section 4.16 of the Environmental and Planning Assessment Act. Because we are doing this recording and it's going to the public, I'll explain what this means. Basically, DAs come to council when they don't either meet the LEP or the DP guidelines, and they require a variation from the councillors to approve the development, what part of the development is outside the guidelines. In this particular instance is the size of the shed on the block, and the planners have comprehensively looked at this and advised that it can be approved with a vote from council, and that is what we're currently going to vote on. So I'll now ask if somebody was prepared to move this document as it stands. Could I have a mover, please?
So moved, Councillor Hawkins.
Thank you, Councillor Hawkins. Do I have a seconder for this?
Councillor Cudmore.
Thank you, Councillor Cudmore. So it's been moved by Councillor Hawkins, seconded by by councillor Cudmore. Do you wish to speak to it, councillor Hawkins?
No, Mr Mayor.
Do you wish to speak to it, councillor Cudmore?
No, thank you, Mr Mayor.
Okay, I'll start with councillor Black. Do you wish to speak to it?
No, thank you, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Miles, do you wish to speak to it?
Yes, please, Mr Mayor, I would. So, Mr Mayor, as councillors are aware, I'm actually currently divided with this DA, and I'd like it to actually be referred to come back to council again with some further information. I have quite a few concerns about the recommendation, the size of the land, and some issues. I have forwarded them forward to the executive officer to pass on. I do want to state that I am positively 100% behind the planning team, but I just have some concerns over this and would like my questions answered before it is passed. Thank you, Mr Mayor. So I'd like it to be deferred.
Okay, so councillor Miles, I'll take it as you're speaking against the motion.
That is correct.
Thank you, councillor Miles. Who's next? Councillor Lobsey, do you wish to speak to it?
No, I don't wish to speak to it.
Councillor Webster, do you wish to speak to it?
No, thanks.
I think I've covered everywhere else. I'll now put the motion. All those in favour? Councillor Cudmore, how do you vote?
In favour, seconded.
Councillor Hawkins, how do you vote?
In favour?
Councillor Black, how do you vote?
In favour.
Councillor Miles, how do you vote?
Against, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Lobsey, how do you vote?
In favour.
Councillor Webster, how do you vote?
Against.
Councillor Hope, I will vote in favour. Now, the motion is passed by votes to 2. Thank you very much. Okay, the next item on the agenda is 7.6, the Environmental and Economic Development Services Works report for March 2020. There is a recommendation that council receive and note this report. Do I have a mover?
Councillor Miles, happy to move, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Miles. Do I have a seconder?
Councillor Black?
So is that you, Councillor Black?
Yes.
Thank you, Councillor Black. Do you wish to speak to it, Councillor Miles?
Mr Mayor, just the one comment in regards to the item 4, the grants project update. It was very hard to read and to identify those grants. So I'm just wondering if we might be able to get a hard copy in future. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Miles. Councillor Cudmore, do you wish to speak to it?
No, thanks, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Hawkins?
No, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Black?
No, thank you, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Lodge?
No. Thank you.
Councillor Webster?
No, thanks.
I'll now put the motion. All those in favour? Councillor Cudmore, how do you vote?
In favour.
Councillor Hawkins, how do you vote?
In favour?
Councillor Black, how do you vote?
In favour.
Councillor Miles, how do you vote?
In favour?
Councillor Lobsey, how do you vote?
In favour.
Councillor Webster, how do you vote?
In favour.
The Mayor votes in favour and moves unanimously. Thank you very much. Okay, the next item is 7.7, COVID-19 Business Continuity Planning Update. Before I read this recommendation, I would again like to thank the staff with the many initiatives taken out in here of not sending any of our staff home on unpaid leave, reallocating staff where they could into other roles, particularly helping out in the community, as in our gym and rec staff doing Meals on Wheels and door-to-door deliveries. I think we're way ahead of the curve in some of the initiatives our management team has taken, and I think it shows a care for our staff and the level of commitment to the community. So I personally, on behalf of all the councillors, would like to thank the management and the management team of the outstanding job they're doing in these difficult times. There is a recommendation in 2 parts, 1 to receive and note the report, and 2 be provided with further update reports. Now ask that somebody move that.
So moved, Mr Mayor. Councillor Hawkins.
Thank you, Councillor Hawkins. Do I have a seconder?
Councillor Black?
Thank you, councillor Black. Do you wish to speak to it, councillor Hawkins?
No, Mr Mayor.
Do you wish to speak to it, councillor Black?
Perhaps through you, Mr Mayor, to the General Manager, perhaps if the GM would like to let our public know that the 10 staff were redeployed from the Environmental and Economic Development Services Directorate during this time.
I'll refer that through to the General Manager for comment. Joe?
So we've had staff from the libraries redeployed to assisting with the New South Wales Centre. We've had staff redeployed helping with the waste strategy, do the exciting but important work of a bin count, so that we're ensuring that we are collecting appropriate rates. We've had staff redeployed twice. They were redeployed to help with the customer service, and then the direction was that we weren't to do that anymore, and we were to close the customer service area because of impact of insurance. We've actually had staff who are looking to learn completely new skills in a new area, and that's created an opportunity. So I think certainly the senior staff have worked very hard to look at opportunities for staff, develop and to count those opportunities very positively. So yeah, it's been a very good experience actually, and staff have responded very well to opportunities, but also taking on other tasks which may be something new for them to experience. Obviously the libraries now embrace click and collect, so that's been an adaptation for them, how they deliver that service. We've continued on with the Centrelink service at Werris Creek Library. The gym staff, I think, have been very well received with helping out with the hack services. They've done an outstanding job working with the elderly, working from people in the gym to working with elderly people who are in need. And it may have actually opened up some new ideas for staff in terms of their careers and their careers within council. So all in all, it's been a relatively positive experience for staff, I think.
Thank you, Ms. Secretary.
Thank you, councillor Black. I'd just ask, would either of the two directors like to speak to any of their departments directly what they've done? I'll ask Rodney Batterham, Director of Works and Engineering first.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. My team has taken this on very well. Obviously their position is that they've got work to do out there still, and they've continued to turn up and deliver that work. Luckily for us, our redeployment has needed to be low, and I'm very happy with the team and their response in delivering all the capital projects we've got there to deliver this year. They're all working really hard on that and continuing on despite the problems with COVID-19.
Ms. Osley, would you like to speak to your team?
Through the General Manager, and I'd just like to reiterate the General Manager's comments in terms of the redeployment of my team. Been very, very impressed about their commitment to the community and their overall resilience, and I agree with Joe that this has actually opened up quite a few new opportunities for some of them, and something that we probably didn't expect when we embarked on this journey and had to make some decisions very quickly. So I'm quite proud of the staff and very impressed with the work that they've been doing under some really trying circumstances.
Thank you. I'll ask any further questions. Councillor Hawkins.
No, nothing further to comment on.
Councillor Cardinal.
No, thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank Councillor Black moved it, that's fine. Councillor Miles.
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd just like to reiterate that what I'm hearing around my little neck of the woods up here in Werris Creek, the Meals on Wheels people that are coming from council, very, very positive. They're very happy. some of our more mature age residents are very pleased to see these younger people coming to their front door. So I'd just like to say that you're quite right. The redeployment of the staff has opened new opportunities and opened some volunteer cases for them. They're very happy. They've worked not only under the local government requirements, but also under the Hunter New England Health requirements. So I take my hat off to them, and I congratulate them on the way they've merged into that role. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Miles. Councillor Lobsy, do you wish to speak to it?
Nothing further, no.
Councillor Webster.
No, thanks.
Now put the motion. All those in favour. Councillor Cudmore, how do you vote?
In favour.
Councillor Hawkins moved it, so he's in favour. Councillor Black seconded. Councillor Miles, how do you vote?
Miles in favour.
Councillor Lobsy.
In favour.
Councillor Webster.
In favour.
Councillor Hope, in favour. I now declare it carried unanimously. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is 7.8, the draft recreational strategy and master plan progress report. Again, before I put this recommendation, I'd just like to briefly speak to it to update the community, as this one has been quite sought after with sections of the community wanting some clarification. That we did agree to have some more community consultation with this, that unfortunately due to COVID-19 has made that very, very difficult. So what Council in Principle here is doing is adopting the master plan. It will be a living document, and we will endeavour to do some more consultation around the delivery of it to make sure that those relevant community groups that are involved in the different sporting access have an opportunity to be heard through the delivery process. Again, I'd like to thank the staff for all the hard work, time and effort, and numerous amount of meetings that have gone into this. We've also taken some of the submissions as submissions along the way because of the current climate. And yeah, so the recommendation is that the draft recommendation strategy as amended be submitted for final adoption at the May 2020 council meeting, along with associated costings for identified priority projects. I now ask for somebody to move that recommendation.
Councillor Cudmore will move it.
Thank you, Councillor Cudmore. Do I have a seconder?
Second.
Thank you, Councillor Black. Do you wish to speak to it, Councillor Cudmore?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Do you wish to speak to it, Councillor Black?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Do you wish to speak to, I'll now open it for question. Councillor Hawkins, do you wish to speak to it?
No further comment, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Miles, do you wish to speak to it?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Lobsy, would you like to speak to it?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Webster, would you like to speak to it?
No, thanks.
If there's no further questions, now put the motion. All those in favour. Councillor Cudmore, how do you vote?
I moved it.
Thank you. You did too. Apologies. Councillor Hawkins, how do you vote?
In favour.
Councillor Black seconded. Councillor Miles, how do you vote?
In favour, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Lobsy, how do you vote?
In favour.
Councillor Webster, how do you vote?
In favour.
Councillor Hope votes in favour. I declare it carried unanimously. Thank you. Okay, the next item on the agenda is 7.9 Waste Strategy Implementation Progress Report and Update. Before I move this, ask for this recommendation to be moved, I'd like to speak. We had a very comprehensive report done this morning in our morning session explaining how this is going to look and how it's going to be rolled out and the projected costs around it. It was awesome to see such a well done, very easy to follow report that gives us a way forward with this particular strategy. So again, I'd like to commend the staff and particularly our new gentleman's name, who I forgot, Barry Stricken, our new waste manager. The quality of the work presented to us as councillors this morning, and would like to pass on the thanks to the whole team in that section this morning. So there's a recommendation here that we see the report. Is somebody happy to move it?
So moved, Councillor Hawkins.
Yeah,
Sorry.
second it.
Hang on, guys. I've got a bit of background noise. Who moved that?
Councillor Miles, happy to move.
Thank you, Councillor Miles. Do I have a seconder?
Councillor Hawkins.
Thank you, Councillor Hawkins. Do you wish to speak to it, councillor Miles?
Only to concur with everything you've just said, Mr Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Miles. Do you wish to speak to it, councillor Hawkins?
No, Mr Mayor.
Do you wish to add any further comment, councillor Cudmore?
No, thank you.
Councillor Black?
Only to say that it is a very, very professional report and a pleasure to read.
Thank you, councillor Black. Councillor Lobsey?
Nothing further to add, thanks.
Councillor Webster?
No comment.
Thank you. I'll now put the motion. All those in favour? It was moved by councillor Miles and councillor Hawkins. So councillor Cudmore, how do you vote?
In favour?
Councillor Black?
In favour?
Councillor Lobsey?
In favour?
Councillor Webster?
In favour.
Councillor Hope in favour. I declare it carried unanimously. Thank you. Okay, the next item on the agenda is 7.10, Council's Water Supply Status Report. Just again, before I put this report, there's been a little bit of community concern about Wallavadar, and I've had a meeting with with Rodney Padahan, director of that area, to get a further update, and we're going to put out a little bit of media to reassure people that we're getting on top of this. So there's a recommendation there that one council agreed to change the water conservation measures in Wallavadar from level 5 to level 2 effectively from the 29th of April. Is somebody happy to move that?
Happy.
Sorry, who was that?
Ian Lobsey.
Thank you, Ian. Do we have a seconder? Is that you, Councillor Black?
Councillor Black.
Thank you. So I was moved by Councillor Lobsey, seconded by Councillor Black. Do you wish to speak to it, Councillor Lobsey?
Other than to thank our Director of Engineering for filling up the water supplies in various places.
Thank you. Yes, I think they've done an outstanding job with all the hassles we've had lately with floods and whatnot, so I concur. Do you wish to speak to it, Councillor Black?
I'll need to concur with Councillor Lobsey. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Black. Councillor Cudmore, do you wish to speak to it?
No, thank you.
Councillor Hawkins?
No, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Miles?
No further comments. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Webster?
No thanks.
I now put the motion. All those in favour? Councillor Cudmore, how do you vote?
In favour?
Councillor Hawkins?
In favour.
Councillor Miles?
In favour?
Councillor Webster?
In favour.
Councillor Hope, in favour. Carried unanimously. Thank you. Okay, the next item on the agenda is 7.11, Roads to Recovery and Bridge Renewal Program Progress Report. There is a recommendation that Council receive a note of this report. I might just briefly ask the Director of Works to speak to this, as it's a fairly comprehensive report, and then I'll ask for someone to move it. So through the General Manager, I'll hand over to the Director of Works.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Very pleased to say that the teams are going really well in delivering this program. This resheeting program has been very beneficial in this Shire, and that we're on track to complete it by the end of this financial year. In addition to that, the bridge we have now let to tender, and it will close on the 7th of May. We're getting a lot of interest on the tender, and I expect that we'll probably end up with a very good competitive process.
Thank you, Mr Badahan. So I'll now call for a mover of the report.
So moved, Councillor Hawkins.
Thank you, Councillor Hawkins. Do we have a seconder?
Councillor Black.
Thank you, Councillor Black. Do you wish to speak to it, Councillor Hawkins?
No, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Do you wish to speak to it, Councillor Black?
Job well done. Keep going.
Thank you, Councillor Black. Councillor Cudmore, any questions or comments?
No, thank you.
Councillor Miles, any questions or comments?
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. Just to express a vote of thanks to be given the opportunity to put forward any roads that we feel need some attention. And I'm sure that I don't normally deal with potholes in council meetings. So I think it would be nice to be able to just put some roads through that we have concerns with and have them considered in the operational side of things. So just thank you to the GM and to the others for extending that opportunity to us.
Thank you, councillor Miles. Councillor Lobsey, do you wish to speak to it?
No, thank you.
Councillor Webster, would you like to speak to it?
No, thanks.
And if not, I now put the motion. All those in favour, how do you vote, councillor Cudmore?
In favour.
How do you vote, councillor Miles?
In favour, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Lobsey?
In favour.
Councillor Webster?
In favour.
Councillor Hope in favour. I declare it carried unanimously. Moved by councillor Hawkins and Black. Item 1.1. Now on to the late reports. And the first one is a late mayoral minute regarding the recruitment of the Director of Engineering Services and the late report regarding community silo project to be considered as a matter of urgent business. I will put that up as a recommendation. Can I have a seconder to consider this business?
Second.
I'll second it.
Thank you, councillor Black. I don't think there's anything to be spoken to. I'll now put that to a vote. Councillor Cudmore, how do you vote?
In favour.
Councillor Hawkins?
In favour.
Councillor Miles?
In favour.
Councillor Lobsey?
In favour.
Councillor Webster?
In favour.
Declare that carried unanimously. So the first item we are dealing with is item 1.1, the mayoral minute recruitment of the Director of Engineering Services. And there is a recommendation to receive and note the mayoral minute. I'm happy to move that as it's a mayoral minute. Can I have a seconder, please?
Councillor Hawkins.
Thank you, councillor Hawkins. Okay, I'll briefly speak to this. This mayoral minute is covering off the recruitment of one of our executive management team, which is the director's position, and it's just setting up the format of how that will be rolled out. So I'll now ask that I'll now put the motion. All those in favour? Councillor Cudmore, how do you vote?
In favour.
Councillor Black, how do you vote?
Favour.
Councillor Miles, how do you vote?
In favour.
Councillor Lobsey, how do you vote?
In favour.
Councillor Webster, how do you vote?
In favour.
Now declare that carried unanimously. Thank you. Okay, item 1.1 is the community. I think it's 1.2. That should be 1.2, guys. Just a typo in the business paper. Item 1.2 is the community silos project. I will give a slight briefing of what this is about. There is a group of people who've got together in town to look at putting artwork on the silos in the main street, and have approached council to consider the project. There is a recommendation that council receive and note the Director of Environmental and Economic Development Services report. 2, request the Corindai Rotary Club to submit a detailed project proposal, including a building condition assessment for council's further consideration. So what we're asking for here is some more details so we can decide whether we can move forward with this and or not. So now put that recommendation. Is somebody happy to move it?
Happy to move it, Ian. Lobsey, councillor
Thank
Lobsey.
you, councillor Lobsey. Do I have a seconder?
Councillor Hawkins.
Thank you, councillor Hawkins. Do you wish to speak to it, councillor Lobsey?
Only to say that we need a lot more detail of many things, including the site restoration and all of that sort of thing. So it's going to be some time before we will have enough information to make a decision, I believe.
Thank you, councillor Lobsey. Do you wish to speak to it, councillor Hawkins?
Nothing to add, Mr Mayor.
Okay. Do you wish to speak to it, councillor Cudmore?
No, just to say, Mr Mayor, it doesn't stop them on their own going forward if they can work something out with GrainCorp, as long as council don't have anything to do with it. I would have thought that if whoever Rotary or a group, the silo art people want to go ahead with it, if they can work out an agreement with GrainCorp and say that they're quite happy to do the artwork and leave it at that, I don't know why council have to really be involved. Thank you.
Councillor Cudmore. Do you wish to speak to councillor Black?
Yes, just to concur with Councillor Cudmore, the fact is we spent quite a bit of time discussing this morning, as you're aware, and the main concern is that it becomes an asset to the council, which could be rather negative in terms of being an asset, and the long-term maintenance of the silos would also become quite a negative impact on us, I would suggest. I think it's a wonderful idea. And as Councillor Cudmore said, if there is a part of the community that would like to take this on, but they will manage it themselves, then so be it. But I suggest wait till we get more information. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Black. Do you wish to speak to it, Councillor Miles?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I concur with the previous speakers. And one of the other things we didn't discuss this morning was also the possibility of insurance hike, our insurance premiums. We would take it. I'm quite supportive of the current proposal. So further information needed, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Miles. Do you wish to speak to it, Councillor Webster?
No, thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Webster. If not, I'll now put the motion. All those in favour? Councillor Cudmore, how do you vote?
In favour.
Councillor Black?
In favour.
Councillor Miles?
In favour.
Councillor Webster?
In favour.
Councillor Hope, in favour. I now have declared the motion carried unanimously. Thank you. And I think we're done. I now declare the meeting closed and thank you very much for the participation.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Don't
Thank you
forget
very
to
much.